Calling the planning board meeting of April 11th, 2024 to order at 7:01 p.m. A motion to open the meeting.
So moved.
Seconded.
Second.
And roll call vote to open the meeting. Will Dunham,
Aye.
Frank Hoke,
Aye.
Bob Wolf,
Aye.
and I am Addie Mae Weiss, aye as well. The agenda for tonight is we are going to review and approve the minutes from April 2nd, our last meeting. We have no hearings on the agenda, and current planning board business. We have preparations for town meeting on April 23rd. We are reviewing the presentation and handout for the warrant article 14, affordable housing bylaw. We'll have an update on the solar bylaw and an update on tree removal on Farm Road, and then other business and town planner report. And that is all I have on the agenda for tonight. Motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Are there any further discussion regarding the agenda?
I don't think there are any new items to add.
Okay, so hearing none, we will proceed with the minutes from
Roll
April.
roll call vote just because we're on Zoom.
All right.
Sorry.
Right. Roll call vote to approve the agenda. Will Dunham,
Aye.
Frank Hoke,
Aye.
Bob Wolf.
Aye.
Okay. All in favor, and Addie Mae Weiss, aye, for approving the agenda. So the minutes, April 2nd, 2024. Thanks again, Steph, for the detailed, clear minutes. Is everyone had a chance to review those minutes?
Yes.
Any concerns or edits or changes?
On the minutes, there was the highlighted section. It says Chair Addie Mae Weiss called the meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. And then there's in Sherborn Town Hall, room 204, and using Zoom. Did we actually meet in the town hall?
Oh, sorry about that. That's my standard template, and I usually pick one. And if that was still there, that was my mistake.
Okay. Yes,
So I didn't know if that yellowness meant that part of that was already going to be fixed, but
nope, it just meant that I was supposed to look at it before I sent it out.
Okay,
My apologies.
I'm glad I mentioned it then.
Yeah, so they should be amended to just say using a Zoom meeting platform.
I didn't see anything further. Anyone, was there something else, Frank?
Yeah, I just had a question. I don't know if it's an issue with the minutes, but if you look under Battery Energy Storage System, BESS information on page 2, under the bulleted items, it said Len Buckle volunteered to participate with background with electrical engineering and planning. Was that for the BESS?
Yes.
I assume so because I think the next one, which was the environmental impacts, was also based on the BESS and so on. Yeah. Okay. I'm good.
All right. Do we have a motion to
So
approve?
there was one other thing I wasn't sure about. It was on the third page, second line of the minutes. It says that the state may provide some additional funds, but likely enough to cover all of the above. Well, should that be likely not enough to cover all of the above activities?
Yes, it should be likely not enough.
Okay, so that word "not" should be inserted.
Good catch, Andy.
Yes, nice job. All right. Any other notes, comments on the minutes? All right, hearing none, do I have a motion to accept the minutes as amended
So moved.
and seconded? I
Second.
believe- Okay, so moved and seconded. All those in favor, Will Dunham,
Aye.
Frank Hoke,
Aye.
Rob Wolf,
Aye.
and I, Addie Mae Weiss, am I as well. Okay, so warrant article 14, I think I sent out a one-page handout, and Heidi also did. And there's overlap between our two
Crossed.
handouts. So mine's more wordy, which has always been my challenge in all of my writing. To be less wordy is the challenge. I don't know if everyone had a chance to review it. It's possible you haven't, and it's possible that the handout is something that let's see if I can share screen here. Let's see, I can't see what. That's weird. Too many windows open.
Which one did you want to show?
I was trying to show the one-page handout. Granted, we have my version and we also have Heidi's version.
Yeah, but
I
which
think
one?
we just saw your version.
Oh, did it show up? It was
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah, you just had to scroll.
Yeah.
So let me try this again. Sorry.
That's it.
If you just scroll a little bit.
Yeah, go up a little.
Okay.
Oh, the other way.
Okay. It's weird. Normally when I share screen, I can see kind of what you're seeing, and I'm not seeing. I have no perspective. I have no clue of what you guys are seeing for some weird reason.
So now you went halfway down. So if you go back up, we start at the beginning. Keep going. Yep, right there. Now that's at the top of your article.
Okay.
And it shows up till October 5th.
Oh, here we go. Wait. All right. Presenter overlay. All right. Whoops. No, that's not what I wanted. Sorry.
That was cute. Showed a little picture of you in the bottom.
So maybe if you do you
All
have
right. Well, I think okay. This was the handout that I had, which Heidi had, the one that Heidi sent has some of this same information, but what I added was what we had talked about, which is what is inclusionary zoning for those who are at town meeting and have never heard of inclusionary zoning or aren't aware of what this is. And again, it may be too wordy. We can edit. At the same time, it is something that they can sit and read on their own time. But again, I don't know if anyone had a chance to look at this or if there's thoughts or if this time is more productive spent starting with kind of the presentation.
we're on this now. We this needs to get done. This is going to happen next week, so I think it would be good to do it now. I looked at both. I'd like to do a little bit of a hybrid of both, but if you don't mind me saying, and I to know, maybe if we start with Heidi's, and the only reason is like inclusionary zoning is a land use planning intervention by governments. The wording to me was a little bit more straightforward, that a person that wasn't into planning, just any resident could understand the words a little bit better. But then there were some things that were in Heidi's that I thought we could add a few more of the words that came from yours.
Frank, I had a similar thought, and I've actually I kind of, since Heidi sent a Word version, I have some proposed changes if anyone's interested to Heidi's. And I was thinking that like Heidi's was a little more approachable, but Addie Mae's had all the detail.
Yeah.
And so maybe we could do front back, right? Like the front is just like this more accessible Heidi version, if you will, but the back can have like the detailed timeline and some more definitions, you know, that are more wordy, but the front is a little bit more accessible to the layperson.
I think that's a good idea, the two.
I'd be glad to share my screen if I spent 10 minutes just sort of marking up Heidi's version, if that would be helpful.
Yeah, if you want to share yours, because I
Okay.
have now too many things open. I would
Eddie,
be organized and
it's so funny because I do the same thing. You know, I'll have a meeting and I'll have everything set up and all that ready to go, and then I can't find anything when I need it, and it's a mess. I don't know what it is.
All right. So just zooming in a little bit.
Actually, Steph, before you start on
Yeah.
the details,
Mhm.
I was going to kind of propose a little bit more of a top level change to it without getting into the details, which is the top section of it says, why are we proposing changes?
Mm.
But then the 6 bullet items are not why we are proposing changes. They are, here's a description of Sherborn's current bylaw, which is good. People should know that. So then, so I think my suggestion is maybe you should have 3 sections. There's a section which is, here's the current bylaw, and it has maybe some modification of those half dozen bullet items. And then say, why are we proposing changes?
Which is this, right?
And which is, this has not produced any affordable units. And I'm also wondering, I haven't done any of the research on this, but I think some of the other board members or Heidi has more information on what other towns have done. And I'm wondering if there's something about making us more, putting us more in line with what has worked for other
Yeah.
communities. And then the description of what are the proposed changes. And so I was just kind of thinking a little bit of a reorganization at the top level along that line. And then maybe you have much more specific items we want to.
I guess the challenge of, okay, so the challenge that we keep bumping up against and what we bumped up against when we were trying to write it initially is trying to look at what works in other communities. The reality is this is a tool, and in general, it's not the most successful tool. We can look at a lot of, Heidi's looked at a lot of communities. I know Will looked at a lot of different communities. We can look at what they have and what formula and calculations they've come up with and try to use based on all the guidance that the state gives you. But there's, whether it works or not is essentially dependent on what the market conditions are and the climate and the cost to develop. And so it's really hard to go and say, okay, we know that it's worked. This tool has worked in this is the magic number. There is no magic number, not really. I mean, the more you start digging into it, the harder and harder it is to come up with, to make it. And that's partly where you start going down the rabbit hole.
But I think it's reasonable to, I like the 3-part structure. To me, the second part is kind of what's happened. What have we learned since doing what we did in 2020, right? And one thing we've learned is it hasn't encouraged any affordable units in Sherborn. And what else have we learned? It's more stringent than other towns. And therefore there's maybe the other developers are going to other towns, or they're using the 40B rather than the affordable housing bylaw. So that seems to me like a nice, just some points to make. It's kind of just what have we learned in the last 4 years, and then, as a consequence of that, now we're proposing changes. And if I don't know the case of what other comparable towns are doing, but if it happens to be a threshold of 6 units and 10% is a very common, or the majority of towns have that, that would be helpful to state here. I don't know, maybe it's very heterogeneous.
I can tell you, I found it very all over the place. So my quick summary, Dover, they have a multifamily residence district. So only one little area where it has to be at least 25% affordable and at least 40% elderly. And no multifamily development within 1/2 a mile of another such development. So it's like a totally different animal from
different structure.
Yeah. Holliston has inclusionary zoning. 8 or more units on a single lot may increase by up to 10%, but they also have a bonus. 10% must be affordable. So that's similar, to what we're trying to propose. Millis, they just have a bonus if purchased by the Millis Housing Authority, no numbers listed. Medfield, they have 6 to 20 projects, have 15% affordable. 21 to 49 units have 20% affordable, and it kind of goes up from there. Natick had 2 or more units, but later on for something else has 6 or more units, and they say at least 15%. Framingham.
I guess this was the so
Yeah.
I guess what I was trying on my previous one. When you go, I was taking language from the Massachusetts State toolkit that they advise towns on how to develop inclusionary zoning, and the language that the state toolkit for advising municipalities on how to write your bylaw, the language I pulled directly from them was that the number of units required to trigger the applicability of inclusionary zoning should reflect local real estate development demands, and that municipalities should be careful to consider development consequences of the policy choices, and that they respond directly to local economies, and that this is economics and economies. And that is the challenge that we face. All of these other towns that we're looking at, the construction costs are so different because you don't have because you're not trying to do septic and water, and the constraints, the construction cost and the land constraints. We can't offer density bonus because So I guess this is our challenge, and without getting all of a sudden too deep in the weeds, our economic formula doesn't currently work.
Well, maybe we can say something to that effect, just that the market, whether it's the market forces or the, taking into account the additional cost of septic and water, it economically, it hasn't proven viable for any development to occur.
So infrastructure challenges?
Yeah.
Marion,
Marion
so I'm sorry. If Marion, would you like to help?
Oh, I'd be happy to. But you guys are doing just great. I'm just kind of listening. I think you're homing in on it. I like Andy's suggestions and Rob's suggestions and Frank's to first of all keep it much simpler. You can't go down any rabbit holes in your 5 minutes, so you have to really keep it simple. And I like the 3 sections rather than what have we learned since 2020. I think it's better to say why do we need to change? Why do we need to amend this bylaw now? And then things that you list under that can be things that you learned, or I think it's better. Yeah, that's good. Why amend this bylaw now? That's fine. And then your list is getting good. And then whatever the proposed change, I think you're on the right track, so I'll just shut up.
I think the challenge of saying it's more stringent bylaw than nearby towns doesn't hold up.
No, I'd take that out.
It's
I agree. That one should go.
So on that one, there was a lot of research that was done on towns alike Sherborn. Was it Will and maybe
It was me. Yeah.
Frank? Yeah, I was going to guess Frank. Who did research on like Carlisle and Lincoln and and this bylaw was more stringent than similar towns. So could we say something to that effect?
No, Carlisle had no number or percentages in their zoning bylaws.
Well, yeah.
But there were other towns similar to Sherborn.
Steph is right, and I mean, it's been so long ago since I came up with, at least my part of that list. I don't remember exactly the towns that
I mean, our keeping it at 2 was definitely more stringent than most. So that part is, I believe that's a fair statement, to a degree. It's
similar. That's good. Yeah, it's in similar towns.
Do you think it's worth mentioning that the state's new multifamily housing law does not allow more than 10%?
I think we could have a bullet on consistency, the state urging towns to be consistent
with their multifamily
without getting into 3A, because I think 3A gets really confusing.
Oh, right. Yeah, that sort of thing. Yeah. Exactly.
And I think I'm going to.
I would not make them
take minutes and edit this document. Sorry, Steph.
Yeah, I would go back to having these just be bullet points and then not.
Agreed.
And the only thing I would highlight is that this has not produced any affordable units. I mean, that to me is our bottom line of why we're here. So that's the only one I'd kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, we can make this aesthetically improved.
Yeah.
After, as long as we've got the
right.
content.
Yeah, it does not cheat now.
And state is urging. Urging is the wrong word, but
you
can just say consistent with other state mandates.
State recommending or state recommendation to be consistent with. I mean, and I guess this is the challenge, and it goes back to again what we've, again when I said the toolkit for inclusionary zoning, the difference, because we're not. This is, and the goal here is to encourage developers to build affordable housing, but we can't offer any density bonus. 40B, the state inclusionary zoning bylaw, does essentially offer a huge density bonus, and that's the difference. So the economics are our biggest challenge.
Could I jump in a minute?
Absolutely, Mary.
To that last point you raised, Hattie Mae, I'm not sure that politically it works well to say that we haven't had enough development because of this. I mean, we may actually think that, but I don't think that's going to win you a lot of friends at town meeting. I think it might be better to say that it's important that any multifamily or multi-unit development keep up with, maybe this belongs somewhere else, keep up with, have at least 10% affordable to keep up with our state requirement. No, I take that back. I take that back. It's just any way you put that kind of gets you into hot water, one side or another.
Yeah, I mean, that's what.
But it's,
Oh.
I'm just wondering whether, I mean, again, going to people who aren't in the middle of all of this, as I understand it, there is some ultimate goal of getting or requirement from the state that the 10% of housing is affordable.
Mhm.
Ultimately, I think, right? And there's a state bylaw, the 40B, and the local bylaw under which that can happen. And it would be preferable if some of that happened under the town bylaw, because there's more control or more local input from residents on being able to influence the planning process. And therefore it's desirable to have a tool that's used. I mean, it is because people don't know what 40B is. I don't really know what 40B is.
Right.
So I'm just wondering, and that might be that could be part of the introduction right at the very beginning about why do this. There's a state requirement, and then there are some other, there are some diversity benefits to the town and so forth. So I don't know whether it's useful to have any introductory framing, or whether that's going to be part of the presentation, and it might not be necessary in the handout. So,
Or Andy, which, if right next to 40B, we put in parentheses state controlled?
oh, that would be good.
Yeah.
Big state.
I did add where we, in the intro, there was sort of a definition of inclusionary zoning and an acknowledgement that we've been talking about it.
We've actually been talking about it since at least 2016.
Yeah, I think I thought it was sooner than that as well.
Yeah.
Sherborn has about, right, this should be about 3% of his total housing. And then I added this, which I don't know if it's correct, so that's why I wanted someone else to look at this. State law imposes penalties in the form of eligibility for 40B developments.
I wouldn't put that in.
Okay.
What
What about state law allows 40B developments?
Well, we're talking about Sherborn's existing affordable housing bylaw. So I kind of felt the 40B reference would be.
But there's no reference for what the 3% means, was what I was getting at.
It's useful to have some reference to the 10% that we're kind of working towards. And the 3% doesn't mean anything unless you know that it's short of the 10%. And so some reference to the 10%.
So in that line where it says Sherborn has 3%, out of the, of the state's mandated 10%, or
Why say state target?
safe harbor?
No, state target of 10%.
Is it just a target or is it a mandate?
It's a mandate.
So at 10%, we're in safe harbor, and then all the laws change. So
yeah, there's no penalties if you don't have 10%. And to me, a law, if it was a strict law that you had to have 10%.
But it is. I mean, it's mandatory inclusionary zoning.
How about that?
I guess, and then even when we have 10%, town is still subject to 40Bs if there's a developer who is interested. It's just, and we would have to. It's my understanding we would have to still open a hearing, and the zoning board, we couldn't outright deny, or we couldn't just, we could deny, but we'd have to still go through the process. So it's still, we're still
You have to accept the application.
You have to accept the application. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And go through the hearing and then review it, and it could be determined that that particular project is not the right fit, and we would have a leg to stand on and saying why it's not the right, that, we've met goals and we're in safe harbor XYZ and we're working towards it, and we are choosing for, projects that fit better. So but right now, with as long as we aren't in safe harbor, we don't have as much control over just those decisions.
So is it that the state has control over the 40B developments when we haven't gotten to 10%, but we get local control when we are at 10%?
Right. That's right. In fact, I think that whole point somehow goes down in the second group. Why amend this bylaw?
Yeah.
It doesn't really belong here.
Yeah,
I just wanted a statement that we only have 3% classified as affordable.
mhm.
That was kind of the only thing I was trying to say up front as a fact.
Oh, right. So that's kind of like, why should we have an inclusionary zoning bylaw?
Yeah.
Yeah, these
That's
two
right.
bullets are more contextual background.
Right. I mean, those two actually, I think, go in a before the first heading. Maybe there's another heading there, or maybe it's
or
just
just a paragraph. Yeah.
paragraph.
I'm going to turn track changes off.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
actually, I have to jump to another meeting.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I'm kind of bummed out. Groundwater protection. I can stay for a little bit, but groundwater protection is scheduled at the same time.
So we need to make drafts quick. Okay.
So this is just a paragraph now, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to just accept all the changes so that we can.
Yeah.
And
Well, the other thing I added in, and I didn't know, like, sort of like a visual way to show the old bylaw and the proposed changes. I mean, this is an ugly table. I just put it in a table to have the content here, but like something like an arrow from left to right showing like, this is what we're like. I wonder if some of that could replace some of this. I'm not really sure, but I just a thought that like it could be a little more visually accessible potentially.
I would do that in addition to that, maybe if you want the little chart to, like, we could shrink the size of the upper wording so that the chart fits on one page.
Yeah, it's all in 14, right? It's all in 14 or bigger, so.
Right.
Just downsize everything.
Once we get the content, I can play with the aesthetics.
Yeah, we can,
Yeah.
yeah.
But we could include in the proposed changes, we can have from too.
Yeah.
Right? From
Yeah.
2 units to 6 units or more,
Yeah.
and reduce affordability from 15 to 10.
Yeah, it could replace these.
Yeah.
And then we could even just put the administrative change in here too, right?
yes.
Yeah.
So get rid of all the bullets.
Yeah.
Right. I was gonna say, yeah, get rid of all the bullets, just have the chart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then your graphic shows up still.
Or Marianne prefers a different graphic, but I was just quickly choosing one.
Yeah. When people in Sherborn see that denser development, oh no, not here.
All right, a horse pasture.
Yeah, they're gonna do what I did. I was looking for the street names.
No. So okay, well, we'll look for another graphic. Or we may not need a graphic. I just wanted something not to look so
I like it actually. Yeah.
so sterile.
So
I like
Jim has
having
his hand
something.
raised. Go ahead, Jim. You're
Oh,
muted.
Jim, yes.
You're muted, Jim.
Okay.
Sorry, I lost the mute button. It disappeared on me. But as a member of the community, I think that many people would find the different buckets abstract. So I think if you define the different buckets toward reaching the 10%, that would be helpful, whether maybe graphically. Um,
What do you
so,
mean by buckets, Jim?
well, you have 40B, you have the bylaw, and so you're trying to amend the bylaw, correct?
Correct.
One means of getting the 10%. The 40B is probably the most practical route, so that maybe gets defined as another bucket. And what the status currently is, and then some of the projects that are attempting to reach the 10% where those stand might be helpful. Does that make sense? Or
Mm-hmm.
no, I think I think most people don't understand the nuances of each category. So there's a bylaw, there's 40B,
which is a state bylaw,
and then
local bylaw, and then the town bylaw,
Mhm.
state bylaw.
and then there's the MBTA Communities Act, which is entirely different, but just provides a tool and a mechanism for changing zoning to make it easier to get toward that goal.
Yeah, I actually I think that's good to sort of set the
Yep.
stage a little bit differently up front instead of starting with a definition of inclusionary zoning, but to say
Yep.
this information in a different context. So the state mandates 10% affordable. Sherborn has 3%.
Mhm.
Here's where we are. Here's where we need to be at 10%.
Right.
These are
10% affordable housing.
these are the three methods.
Yep. Yeah. No, this is not the words, Frank. I'm not going to be able to do that. There's just the flow. 3%. Sherborn has 3% affordable. And then we can say affordable housing can be built by developers because there can also be town housing. And this is probably the wrong words. I don't like. But did we capture all of this?
You captured the second sentence.
Yeah. Okay. So something of this content then could be recrafted to make the introductory paragraph.
I mean, I guess the challenge is our local inclusionary zoning does not really provide any incentive. It just makes it a mandatory.
I was going to ask about that.
I don't think that's getting into the weeds, I think.
Yeah, we want to keep it simple.
Okay, but I do think we need to take
Do we have to talk about inclusionary zoning? I mean, the word doesn't show up anywhere else on this.
It's affordable
page.
housing.
Yeah. Maybe we should just refer to it as the affordable housing bylaw instead of the inclusionary zoning bylaw for this audience.
I mean, if anyone says, do you have an inclusionary zoning, and do you have an inclusion? If you talk to anybody, if you're at them, if anyone says, okay, here's your housing production plan, here's your tools for adding affordable housing. Oh, by the way, your town needs an inclusionary zoning bylaw. So
but I would
most
people in town meeting aren't going to understand that. If I would recommend the idea, somebody mentioned the idea of having some more detail somewhere else. We can have footnotes on the back, if you will, and we could have use the term affordable housing, and we could put a footnote, or official term used as inclusionary, whatever we want to do for the cognoscenti.
Yeah.
To get that accuracy that you're seeking, Addie Mae, right? But in a way, this is supposed to be a kind of a simplified for the people reference. So obviously it can't be wrong or inaccurate, but it does have to be communicate. Yeah.
I agree. In the past, what we've done is maybe on the back, if you have a little more detail, to make a little box over at the side that say inclusionary zoning is, a little box with the definition in it. I have just what it is. And yeah, also you can have how the 40B law works in a box too, if you like. But up at the top, I think you need that there's a break in logic between the first sentence and the second. The state mandates 10% affordable. Then until 10% until the town has 10% affordable, the state controls, the state can, or our developments can be built under state, not local laws. Something like that, that kind of, and then Sherborn has 3%. At least to me, that would be more logical to someone who has no idea what we're talking about.
Something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
Or should it be when a town does not achieve 10%?
Yeah.
I'd also point out, I don't know, this might come up in the discussions that happen, but this was originally pitched to the town not so much as a way of increasing the amount of affordable housing in town, but we already had a plan for getting to 10%, which might or might not still happen. And it was more pitched as, if you do achieve this 10%, but then people continue doing regular developments, if they don't have any affordable component, they'll eventually drive you down below 10%. And so this was really seen more as something that would prevent us falling out of safe harbor once we'd achieved it.
So maintaining the 10%.
Maintaining at least 10%. Yeah. That's right, Rob.
Yep.
I don't know if we want to go into that whole thing in the handout, but it may come up. It was originally how it was justified to the town and what, persuaded 2/3 of the people at town meeting to vote for it.
Maybe that goes in the timeline. I'm gonna need to go, guys. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
Steph, do you want to shoot this over to Heidi or myself, and because we'll have to open it up.
Yeah.
Right now it's on yours.
Yep.
I guess if we wanted, I could take a break and go through the presentation, which now I feel like is going to be totally reworked based on this, and maybe so I could, and we can come back to the handout, maybe. I don't know if how everyone feels about that.
I thought that was really good. Thanks for starting.
Yes, thank you, Steph.
Yes.
I'm going to pop this in an email to everyone.
Great.
No. Wait. Oh, shoot.
Okay, it's in the wires, and I'm going to jump off, and I wish I didn't need to, because I really would love to talk about the PowerPoint, but
well, thank you.
Heidi, you'll take over notes from here.
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
Bye, Steph. I love the first page. That's great.
Remind me, someone, how do I get into slideshow mode and not
go to your right. Oh, where is it? Oh, slideshow is the top middle. It says slideshow underneath.
Oh,
There you go.
You don't want presenter view.
No, sorry, no, wait. That, okay.
There you go.
All right, so this was essentially where I started. And I was going to say my presentation is good evening. Planning Board warrant Article 14 is asking town meeting to amend Sherborn zoning bylaw section 4.9, the affordable housing bylaw, also referred to as the inclusionary zoning bylaw. The inclusionary zoning refers to a land use planning tool available for government to encourage development of new housing that's deed restricted, affordable to low and moderate income households. 40B developments are the result of the state's inclusionary zoning bylaw. Similarly, towns may write their own mandatory inclusionary zoning bylaws to encourage the development of affordable housing under local regulations. And as you can see from the handout and what is projected, there was a lengthy history behind the creation of Sherborn's inclusionary zoning bylaw as part of the process, along with the housing production plan, to provide tools for town to add affordable housing stock and maintain local control over development. A lot of research went into determining the right balance between the financial burden of building affordable housing and construction costs. At town meeting of August 2020, the planning board presented Article 21. It was voted to add an affordable housing bylaw. The article that was presented was drawn up based on concern that of maintaining the 10% and concern that we still needed to add units in order to achieve 10%. The threshold of 2 units or more was set as a trigger because of fear of a loophole created in multiple 5-unit subdivisions. So what's happened since 2020, no developer has expressed an interest in using inclusionary zoning, and we have had little development outside of 40B projects. The goal was to encourage developers to develop affordable housing under local bylaws, and what we have is multiple 40B projects throughout town. We looked at other towns and determined that some of the thresholds, the incentives with density bonuses are not possible in Sherborn, and we don't have CPA funds for providing subsidies, so we need to relook at what our formula is for 40Bs. I mean, for inclusionary zoning. This is where my wording got left off. The next slide is what's proposed, and we are decreasing the percentage of affordable units from 10% to better reflect the local economic, and change the trigger of mandatory inclusionary zoning from 2 to 6 units. And we are also looking to maintain, go to 10% in order to align with potential 3A multifamily zoning requirement, as well as it's a economic balance to encourage creation of affordable housing and ensure that we don't fall backwards in our creation of our goal of 10%. And then this was, do we still bring this up? The question has come up about what about Meadowbrook Commons? We don't have a full plan in front of the planning board. A preliminary site plan was presented at town meeting in 2017. The plan in 2017 was a local project under local zoning, and it was a compromise with the developer, in contrast to a previously proposed 40B, and we encouraged the developer to develop 10% affordable housing. Since then, inclusionary zoning was approved at town meeting, and any plan that comes before a planning board will be required to abide by the zoning in place. Yeah. Sorry, guys. It clearly needs work. I'm struggling on. I guess now I guess if we go back to the beginning, do we even talk about? I mean, inclusionary zoning. I mean, just I spent a lot of time talking about inclusionary zoning, but we're saying let's focus on just affordable housing bylaw.
We should keep them consistent and keep it understandable by the general audience, because it's the general audience that has to vote for the accepted changes. And the other, just real quick statement that I would like to make is that section on Meadowbrook,
Yeah.
you think that's going to come up, bring that slide up if somebody asks about it, as opposed to opening the hornet's nest. That if somebody brings it up, then you can have that slide and you can talk to it. So
I think
we
that's a
have it
good
after
point.
the end.
What if this says, what is affordable housing instead of what is inclusionary zoning? And then we talk about affordable housing is deed restricted to, low and moderate income. The MLG is the state's affordable housing bylaw.
We're tripping over. I mean, affordable housing has, there's affordable housing is not a definition. Affordable housing, I mean, it's a definition, but it's not.
Right.
It's deed restricted. Affordable housing has a definition because of.
Maybe you could start with a statement saying the state of Massachusetts, the state of Massachusetts encourages towns to achieve 10% affordable housing according to the state's affordable housing rules. According to the state's affordable housing definition or something like that. I don't know. I think overall, Addie Mae, this has to be way, way, way simplified. I would kind of follow the same logic that was in the summary that you guys just hacked through. You don't really have enough time in 5 minutes to say much more than not just reading the summary, but making each of those points into a sentence and whatever you need to add to it. That'll pretty much take your whole 5 minutes. And people can ask, you can plant questions in the audience among your friends. Ask them to ask a certain thing that will allow you to bring up a slide that answers the question.
Yeah. I guess I'm struggling with, I mean, I guess, how much do we, I guess I thought everybody, because they were aware of, we have all these 40Bs projects throughout town, that everybody was aware that, I feel like we're going back to
Kindergarten.
a little bit with.
I think Jim had a good point, and Andy too. Like, we got to remember the audience, and we're so used to 40Bs. A good part of the audience is going to understand 40Bs. Some won't, and I think we kind of just keep it a little simpler. But I would keep this slide as one. If someone brings up and says, "Well, what's inclusionary zoning term?" If someone asks the term, I'd be bringing this slide up to say it's this, this, and this, or. That I would keep to have where you can say in the handout it's on there, but they can see there's a long history, but I wouldn't read it.
Right.
Well, it's just like what Addie Mae said it really well in the words that she used this slide. There's been a lot of discussion, a lot of work over the years.
Yep.
And then you move on,
Yeah.
But it shows all the, I mean, a huge page of text. Everybody's going, "Oh my God, look at all that text!" And then Yeah, there's a lot of work in there, so I think that's a good thing.
I think you did that well. Yeah.
And if there's details on the handout, they can look at it on the handout.
Right.
You could even have a little picture of the handout showing where it is or something.
Page 2 of the handout. Look at the back.
Right. Right.
Turn it around.
Yeah, you could say we started working on this back in 2016, and in 2020, the Sherborn passed this affordable housing bylaw based
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
the top to the bottom.
Yep.
Right. So I guess the other question is, yeah. So uh, this one was supposed to be the introduction to what inclusionary zoning and what this bylaw is all about, but clearly it's too complicated. So I guess if we go back to, I guess this slide would be change it, and it's would be this basically somewhat more similar to what we've got with our notes that we started working on, talking about, are we going to introduce what the idea is of what is deed restricted affordable housing? Is that where, and the state's mandate for 10%?
I think Steph's opening paragraph, the state mandates 10% affordable housing where towns do not maintain this, developments can be built under the state laws, 40B, bypassing, I think that whole little introduction should be like your first slide. Just my suggestion.
I mean, in terms of practically doing this, I would keep this slideshow and create a second slideshow that's based off that handout, and then you can always copy and paste something from this over to the other one should you want or need. And then secondarily, some of these things that, as we were saying, if somebody asks the question or you plant the question in the audience, like, so is there a definition? Is there a state mandate for this, affordable housing bylaw? You say, yes, it's the inclusionary zoning bylaw, MGL 40B, and so then you can open up this slide and then you can talk a little bit about it, and see what I'm saying? So that you keep it as a quick 5-minute high level, so that everybody understands, so that you get everybody's vote. But if there's any further questions on detail, you have that to go to.
Okay.
I agree with Frank. And whenever you show a slide like the one showing the history or this slide, even if it's just to answer a question, if you have this much verbiage on the slide, people won't hear what you're saying. They'll be trying to read the slide.
True.
So you've got to simplify that.
This slide thoughts on, so if the first one is, I guess the question is, the history slide, yes, I can see where that's a pitfall. But if we do the first one and or make the first slide be akin to what our opening is for our handout, where it just introduces this 10% affordable requirement and why we would have a need for the bylaw, essentially. Second slide, I guess the history, but obviously not talk about it. People may read it, but I don't say much that's
And move on.
than just saying that there's history.
Yep.
So then I guess this slide, is there value to this? Is it confusing?
This is going to confuse everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see any need to talk about what was rejected. I think you just need to describe what do we have now? And it came in August 2020.
Yeah.
I think describing all this other stuff is just pretty much irrelevant.
Right. I guess the reason why this was created back in January, and when we were going before, some people, that I guess this was in response to people saying, oh, we were all of a sudden, why were we making changes just for one person? And the reality is it wasn't. It's always, I guess it went back to the history and trying to figure out how do you express that fact that the bylaw is not perfect, and there isn't a perfect formula out there. And so we have always had concerns if we were going too high or too low and trying to find the right balance. And I guess, but maybe that's something that gets answered in a question, and just there's no way to actually state that.
I'd keep this as if you get questioned about what happened as a reference, and maybe make in here just say the Sherborn's existing housing bylaw.
Yeah, I think when you're describing the existing bylaw, you want the specifics of what it currently says on the slide. And then you might not put additional text, but verbally while you're at that slide, you might say, this was really just a first cut to see how well it worked. And we did it at the time with the thought that we might change these later if it wasn't doing the right thing for us. I think it's very reasonable to say something like that. I wouldn't, maybe you might not want to write it out in the slide, but I think it's very reasonable to point that out.
Okay. So I will change this slide with just more simple, bare bones. What is our current bylaw? And that it requires that it has, I mean, I guess that's the other question. I mean, our current bylaw has all sorts of tables with different payment in lieu's calculations that was complicated.
I wouldn't bring that up to this audience.
Yeah, just
Maybe the words that need to be changed are the ones that you have up there.
so Marion, can Addie May make this and then send it out to all of us with a do not reply all, but we can give her individual comments? Because we're not making a policy, it's just going to be on her presentation, but.
I think so, yeah. This is not a discussion of any import. It's just,
We're not ruling. It's kind of more of an administrative issue.
Yeah, I would say so. So Addie, you may sit down with more than one other person on the board to get input. It'll be helpful if anyone has time to do this with Addie, is to sit down and, go through it slide by slide and figure out exactly what can be said during that slide. It takes a lot of time. So I don't know what kind of time you have, Addie, maybe with your weekend skiing and your kids.
Done. Just kids activities, and I don't know why I'm just like struggling with. I mean, I guess now that we've got something and we've got it's so I guess it's the challenge of being so into the weeds on this that hard to step back and see it from a big picture perspective.
Yeah, you need a second pair of eyes.
I think this slide is pretty good because it does show, why it builds why we're here and what we're looking. We started this. This is kind of all that's come up. My one concern is talking about density bonuses, because we don't explain what density bonus is anywhere else. And I think someone's going to say, what's the density bonus? I would have just said, looked at surrounding towns and probably not put in any other detail.
Okay.
And you don't need the bullet points either, under only new developments have been, you mean all new developments since 2020 have been 40Bs? Is that what you're saying?
For affordables.
All new multifamily developments have been 40Bs. Is that correct?
Well, there's 2 multifamily building permits in 21.
Oh, right. Yeah.
23. These really weren't developments at all. They're just more like single family homes.
Yeah, they're just normal addition.
They're normal, right? This is what was built in Sherborn. We only had 5 things in 21.
I don't think this slide is going to help you.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
It'll bog you down.
Okay. All right, then I guess I'm just struggling with how to reflect why we would want to change it.
Well,
would-
what about the points in the summary that you guys just revised? Just use those same points.
Hey, Addie Mae, what are you up to next week? Are you away or are you around?
I'm away through Wednesday. So I'm here Thursday, Friday, and then the following, the weekend.
If you want, I have some time and I can work on a presentation
Okay.
and then get together with you sometime on Thursday or Friday of next week
Yeah.
and go over it. You know, if you think, Marianne, it's okay to share what we're doing, again, we're not making any decisions or policies or voting or it's just a presentation. If while Addie Mae is gone, I could share this with everybody, and they can make some comments so that when we get together with Addie Mae, we can hopefully get it finalized by the end of the week. Do you think that would be not breaking open meeting law?
I don't think it is, but maybe Heidi, you could check with.
Yeah, I would have only commented back to you, like I would not do a circle, I would still not do a reply all. But I can check. Let me find out what we can do.
Because I think it would be helpful if it were a reply all.
It might be helpful, but I know reply alls are a little bit dangerous.
I'll just mention something on this slide. I'd like, I think the first point it starts out with is important. It's
Yeah.
what we want to get across. Developers have not used the 10% zoning, and instead they've been doing 25% affordable 40Bs that bypass all local control or can bypass all local control. The and the next point in blue, the new developments have been 40B. That's part of that same point. I don't know if you want to list the specifics of the permits. And then the next thing, initially presented as may have to look at adjustments. I think I know what you're trying to say, but that's just like word salad there. I think what you're saying is the bylaw was originally created with the idea that we may have to adjust it later. We would see how it worked and we would have to adjust it later. But you have to be more clear because nobody will know what it meant as phrased. Yeah,
As needed.
that's good.
Um,
And this might come after our CPA fund vote. So if the CPA fund passes, that would be great.
But there again, most people at this point may not
Don't know
know
what it is.
Yeah.
what CPA
I don't-
is. I wouldn't put that in there.
No,
Just
I kind of think
look.
take it. Yeah.
Could we just say that there are tools available to other towns that we don't have, or because that's what the bonus thing or the CPA, these are different things that really aren't available or haven't been available. So if we can just generally say other incentive components aren't available or that other surrounding towns can use.
I guess the reality is uh, our we have no, yeah, I guess we have no, we can't offer any incentives. So we have a mandate, the local inclusionary zoning, the Sherborn inclusionary or affordable housing bylaw has is a mandatory, but there's no incentives other than it's if any developer wants to build a subdivision. At the moment, a subdivision is considered two or more homes. So we are trying to incentivize by, I guess it's not even really incentivized, but that's the challenge. I mean, I guess that's another rabbit hole that we would be going down and taking it into. The only subdivisions we've had of more than two homes have been 40Bs. Yeah, but we also don't have there hasn't been a lot of subdivision development in Sherborn since Cider Hill is the 80s, and before that, like the Ivy Lane, and again that's going down a completely different track, but that's the whole challenge of why, to a certain extent, we don't, the developers are building subdivisions under 40B because financially they're incentivized because they're disregarding the local zoning, and we're still not sure exactly how it all works with the septics and wells. And again, another,
Addie Mae, going back to something that Rob said before, that I totally agree with, the real rationale behind this bylaw back in 2006, whenever 20, was that as new housing is built in Sherborn, we want to make sure that we maintain as new non-affordable housing is built, we want to make sure that we maintain affordable housing being built along with it. Something like that, because it really.
Marion, are you trying to say to stay in Safe Harbor? To get into and stay in?
Of course, we're not in Safe Harbor, so I'm not sure quite how to say that.
Well, to get into and stay.
Something like that. And the second point here, only new developments have been 40B. I don't even understand what that means.
yeah,
Well, the only developments presented, we don't have open space developments. We don't have conventional developments. The only developments presented have been 40B. I mean, that statement is.
Okay.
I guess
so,
it's
that is all new multi-unit developments.
Right.
In 40Bs.
Or any development, yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be multi-family, even.
Right.
Yeah.
and
I would say all instead of only. That makes much more
Yeah.
clear what you're trying
All.
to say.
Yeah.
That's right. All recent, yeah. Well, they're not subdivisions. Actually, 40Bs are not subdivisions. Not in the zoning law sense.
and I guess this is where I'm struggling. I mean,
All recent housing development.
Family is a development. Building a new single family house is a development. So how is developing a house? But so if it's not
well, multi-unit developments. And that doesn't mean everybody in one house. It's just
Right.
all recent multi-unit developments have been 40Bs.
Yeah, I can say that. So I was trying to think about, you're talking about the density and the other things. What if you said something like the infrastructure limits incentive options?
That's sort of Greek to anyone except for planning board people.
Okay, then yeah.
Forty Bs are for housing developments.
Housing developments, right?
I guess it still goes to, okay, why do we even need this if we're going to have 40Bs? And the whole point of this was, as I guess, going back to what we said, it was sold in 2020 as this was a tool to make sure that once we do hit safe harbor, we do have some ability to keep, if there is a larger development, that we don't all of a sudden find ourselves falling backwards in our SHI numbers. And so, and that threat would come from someone building a large number of houses all at once, without adding an affordable component. Because generally, the history of the town has been a couple houses a year, which doesn't drastically change our total housing stock inventory. But so the census and the 10%, but we needed a method to keep up.
The concern was maintaining 10% going forward once achieved something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Jim has his hand raised.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jim. Sorry.
I think that's the headline at May, that this perpetuates some component of affordable housing when safe harbor is reached, or another tool for local control in addition to 40B.
So you think it would work here, or were you thinking on a different slide, or can you repeat that again, Jim? Sorry.
No, I think that's the headline, that once safe harbor is reached, that this is a tool which perpetuates an affordable housing component to future development.
That's the rationale of the bylaw to begin with. And I think that's good, Jim. I don't think it belongs on this particular slide, but it's good.
I think that's the headline. And the other benefit is that if a developer, if this were more attractive, by lowering that threshold, maybe if it were to work economically, this could be another option to 40B, whereas you would offer local control.
I think that point, Addie Mae, belongs up in the introduction, maybe not here. The one that you just.
Formatting, bad text. Sorry, I know I just want to know we're gonna be here all night. This was supposed to be a short, sweet. Sorry.
What if we all tried to take some time to think about it and send you our ideas, and then we could look at all the ideas.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to share this slideshow with anyone that wants it, and they can pull and tweak and come up with their own version, or
send something back to you and you can compile it and put out another version to us to look at.
Yeah.
The thing is that it's annual town meeting is Tuesday after the April vacation.
Right. So, I mean, that would have to be this weekend. We'd have to try and send something to Addie Mae to look at.
Right, but it's after she's done something with it that gives a very short amount of time.
Yeah. But she's back Wednesday, so I thought maybe if she had time to look at everyone's and come up with something for Wednesday, she could send something out to us.
All right, here I thought I was closer to, clearly I'm a long ways off.
I think just the sheet that Steph was working on, I would almost go and say, like,
Yeah.
take those bullet points and make each one of those a slide, like the
Uh,
initial intro, then the existing bylaw, and then why amend this bylaw now, and what are the proposed changes? Like, keep it really simple, and those are the points that I think would be good.
let's see.
I think Heidi's right. I think trying to revise these slides that are very complicated is you could go all night and not get it done. Better to back up and use the outline that you guys hacked out earlier in the meeting and take what you need from these slides, but not too much.
And then keep your other ones as backup for questions. If someone says, what about inclusionary zoning? You can bring it up again. What about this? I'd still maybe add your history one into this on there just to show the depth of what was done. I think that's really good. But I'd almost say that, essentially there are 4 or 5 slides from here, and that might be enough.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at Steph's, and if you guys, I think you can see this now. This was what Steph was working on.
Yeah,
So if we made
that'd
this,
be,
and I can work on kind of putting this in to the slideshow format and send it around to everyone, and then get your feedback on. Of course, I guess that's the challenge. I mean, the slideshow is not supposed to be word by word the presentation, so
No, but you got to have the words up there as prompts, Addie May, to keep you on track. And you don't just read it.
right.
You have your own notes. But the slide just serves as a guide for people so they know where you're going. And I always found, in presentations like this, you've got 5 minutes. You can do about 5, maybe 6 slides, but simple slides. Probably not more. Because it always takes longer when you're actually doing it than you think it's going to.
yeah. But I kind of think just these would be your initial slides.
Mm-hmm.
Intro, the existing bylaw, why amend now, and then the changes.
All right. So sorry, everyone. Thanks for
This is very hard, especially because you have so much knowledge and it's hard to do it from a layman's perspective. So, I mean, I think Andy and Jim really offered some good feedback here too. And just we're used to the terminology.
right.
Oh, thanks. I've been involved with presentations where you have a limited amount of time and trying to get it all in there in that 5 minutes is going to be really tough. Just distilling it to the headline and what the essence is of it.
Yeah.
What the goal is.
All right. No, I mean, looking at this, yeah, it's good, I guess. Yeah, I struggled with thinking, okay, well, anyway, it is what it is. And right, exactly. That's the struggle where we've been having an audience where we've been questioned about why we're making changes, and we've been questioned at a highly technical level, and yeah, trying to bring it back to, I mean, this is a pretty straightforward change that we're asking, but so maybe it's being overthought a little bit, and this start that we worked on with this handout is much more clear and simple.
And then maybe the back page, I'd put on the what is inclusionary zoning that you had, and Sherborn the inclusionary zoning bylaw history. I don't think we'll need the why and what of the proposed, but I think on the back page of this, putting those 2 things with more information might be good, so that if anyone wants it, they can flip it and look at it.
Right. But it does need to be simpler. Just keep it simple. All right, so I will take this, and what I will propose is I will take this handout and attempt to put this in slide format and share the slides, and with everyone, and then do you think like if somehow something looks off or didn't quite, we're missing something, chime in. I guess just respond to me. You can CC Heidi, I believe. Um, Heidi being the common denominator, I think is fine. And
So
yeah,
then you have those changes with everybody not seeing what everybody else's changes are.
sit down.
Then you decide which ones and how you want to use them. Then what is the step after that? You've made the changes to the slideshow. Do you send them back out again, or do you just go with it, or what do you want to do at that point?
Um,
After you get everybody else's changes
I
and
mean,
you
if
pick
you
and
take
you
everyone else's changes, then yeah, I could edit the slides and share with everybody so that you have it ahead of time. Either this is the updated slideshow. Obviously the narrative of what we're talking about.
Do you want to have the things sent to me since I'm not one of your planning board members?
Yeah, maybe I think,
And then the changes, and then I can compile it and send it out
yeah,
as an FYI.
probably safer to, yeah, we'll if so there did any comments go directly to you, Heidi, or
Yeah,
just,
I would just do it just to me alone.
yeah, kind of like we've done with minutes, I believe.
Yeah.
Just send feedback to Heidi.
Eddie Mae, once you're back in town on Wednesday, would you find it useful to actually present it like in one day in town hall? If we could find an hour to get together with other members of the planning board or with Heidi and just try talking it through. I find that's really, really useful.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I guess Wednesday is a travel day potentially. We haven't kind of figured out. I'm trying to. I'm walking into something that logistics with family and travel and dealing with.
Oh, I understand. I was just a suggestion if you have time, and I understand you may not have time.
So it would be Thursday would be more likely to plan for. Yes, probably. I suppose, yes, my public speaking skills clearly need some work. Yeah, I guess yeah. All right, so okay, but seeing that it's 8:30 now, we'll move on from this, and um I'll update that. I'll put this into slide format. I will share it with everybody. Please send feedback to Heidi. Heidi will kind of be the central so that we're not risking any dialogue back and forth, even though this is not any decision really. This is just anyway, I guess just to be safe, we'll make Heidi the common point person. Thank you, everyone. I do appreciate everyone's time in looking at this, and definitely the handout is much improved based on everyone's work. So I'm grateful to that, and thankful for Steph pulling that up and getting that typed out. So solar bylaw update. I read it, and actually, Heidi, do you have any thoughts to share with the board regarding?
Yeah, no, I have reached out. I'd like to get town council's feedback on their interpretation and then bring it back to planning board. So I would think at one of our next meetings, because town council had been away for the week and now we have the school vacation. But I think we should get their feedback and impression on it and then discuss it as a group.
Okay. So everyone did get a copy of that, right? I believe that was
Mm.
sent out to all of you.
Yeah, it is posted on the town clerk's website, so it is available for the public as a document to see.
And then as far as tree removal update and procedure, as mentioned, Eversource and Verizon have been Verizon is responsible for all the poles, and they've been going along Farm Road and replacing poles. They're supposed to be replacing poles, and then it's supposed to be just that, a replacement of existing poles. So poles should be going in the same place essentially, where current poles are. That been an issue, as you might have noticed. It's being addressed. And the arborist for Eversource has been came up with their list of trees and recommendations for removal or pruning, and had a list. The list is still being reviewed by the town tree warden. The initial review was to determine which trees were, in fact, public way trees and under the jurisdiction of planning board, under the Scenic Road Act, and under the jurisdiction of select board and tree warden, or basically the tree warden is the voice for select board to an extent, for the Public Shade Tree Act. And so that's the first review going on. And so then once that list is finalized of which trees are in fact public trees, the hearing will be posted with notice, and the trees that are public trees will all be tagged. It looks like there's going to be about 30 trees, 30, I don't know, 38 or so trees up for discussion. The tree warden will have his opinions on if trees that are healthy, trees that could be pruned instead of taken down. I think, as we found in 2017, there might be trees that could go either way. And when we do post the hearing, and we have that final list, that's when, if there's any trees that's when, as a planning board, I know in 2017 we went out and did a site walk and looked at some of the trees in person ahead of the meeting, ahead of the hearing, so that we could be clear on what was being talked about, as far as, especially if there was a discrepancy between what the tree warden said and the arborist for Eversource said about a tree being failing, or a tree being having not able to be pruned or something. So that's the process. It's still, right now, I am guessing that we originally were looking at May 7th. I am guessing that we will be aiming for May 21st, just to bear that in mind. So that's all I have on the tree removal update. I don't know if anyone has any other concerns about that, or if there's any other reports on meetings with other boards and entities.
I have no further questions or comments on trees. I did we talk about last time that we were going to discuss some topics and visions and calendars of things that we're going to do, or was that for our next meeting?
Thought that was going to be a future one.
Yeah, I think the kind of goals and objectives and all the different things that the kind of our wish list of things to work on as a planning board. Yeah, I think that's probably a good thing, is May 7th as being Will's last planning board meeting, we'll kind of wrap up and say, here's where we've been, here's where we want to go. Did we forget anything? And we know where to find Will if there's something that we
Maybe we can
Go
have
where you
Will,
live.
maybe we can have Will present on what he feels the planning board should work on.
Yeah, Heidi, I won't be far. I'm 2 houses down, so.
I know, but I never see anyone out in the front of the streets. You know, we're so far behind. Okay, no, thanks. Do you want a town planner report?
Yes, please.
Okay. So we signed the contract for the 3A consultant to do our community outreach section. We're still working with Mass Housing Partnership to see if we'll get funds to continue doing the revision on everything else, but we're going to go ahead with our outreach. And I just scheduled today to do the community workshop, and that is going to be on Wednesday, June 19th. I know our meetings normally are on Tuesdays, but I thought maybe that week, that's when the consultant was available. And it will be about an hour and a half workshop. We'll have it advertised from 6:30 to 8. They're going to come in, they'll do a presentation. We'll get some more information on as we go in the future, but I just wanted to get that on people's calendars that we will get an outreach going to the community, invite them to come, look at some mapping exercises. I'm going to invite the Historical Society and districts to come, get their input on what they're looking for in the historical areas, and to just do a little more brainstorming. So hope that is okay with everyone.
Not me.
Rob, what
And
did
then-
you say? I'm sorry, I was.
That wouldn't work for me, but you know,
The 19th won't.
Yeah, in fact, I just arranged a rental of a house on the Outer Banks that week last night. So
Well, change it.
non-cancelable.
Yeah, no, and it's tough because I'm trying to get it in before people leave for the summertime, and school it will be just out of session. So I don't feel we can push it off later, and I don't feel we're going to be ready earlier. I think we need time to meet with the consultant, have them look at what we're doing. So I unfortunately don't think we can do too much.
Mhm.
I'm sure we can maybe do it on Zoom, Rob.
Okay, sure. I can
If
bring
you
a laptop.
really want to, yeah, miss it, don't miss it.
I think we should look at if there's either it gets recorded with Dover Sherborn Cable TV, although if it's a workshop, sometimes when you're having, I don't know, we'll have to
Think about that. Yeah.
Either it'll be recorded or there might be some way to do it in a hybrid format.
Yeah, we'll have to discuss that with them.
Yeah.
And then we just had the meet and greet at the library with Jeremy. He was doing some open sessions and I went along with him for that, and standing room only. Not a single person came. So not surprising. I didn't see a whole lot of advertisement, but I did bring information on our 3A and the affordable bylaws amendments, just in case anyone asks. So keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to know what entices people to come out. It's hard to know what time. I mean, there's always a conflict with one time or another.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't have anything further. Is there anything else to anybody?
Oh, I did have one thing further. Sorry, I just realized. I did ask Jackie if we can have a table at town meeting for the 3A so that we will have handouts and some things available to use that as another outreach, just a flyer for people on 3A as they walk in.
Okay. And that's okay to do that?
Yeah.
We'll have a handout on the bylaw and the affordable housing amendment, and we'll have the handout on 3A the future. So
right.
Okay. All right. So I think that concludes all the business we need to discuss. I appreciate everyone's time. Yeah, I guess yeah.
You need your vacation anyway.
Sorry.
I was just going to mention that I attended the state webinar on the 3A, and it was interesting. I want to maybe talk with Heidi a little bit about what I heard there. They did go over this whole idea of that you can't cap density, which I still don't quite grasp the rationale for that. And they also seem in general like, you know, my attitude is that, you know, the legislature passed a specific law. It should be up to these departments to educate us on the law and to maybe enforce it. But I have the feeling they go a little bit beyond that, and they basically say, well, you know, the law doesn't specifically say that you can't do X, but we don't want you to because, you know, we feel it doesn't comply with the intent of it or something, which I saw a certain amount of that going on in the presentation, but maybe we can get together at some point and we can talk about that, because they did encourage us to email them if we have questions about exactly how applicable it is. And
Right.
I think we might want to do some of that in advance of trying to rewrite the bylaw.
Yes, no, I agree. And I actually, you know, did email them because I listened to that again as well. And, you know, the law says that's a minimum of 15 units per acre. So that's where they're in the density. So that's where they feel anything else going under, saying anything to do under 15 is not going to fly it. And they don't feel there is a cap, even though, like you said, the law doesn't say that you can't have a cap, but they're saying the law is pretty clear that it starts at 15 on up, is the impression they get.
Well, I'm not sure exactly what that does. Are you basically saying they're interpreting that to say a developer cannot do a development with a density of less than 15?
That is not 3A. 3A is a minimum of 15. And I asked her again, I haven't gotten another email back because I was specifically saying, well, what if we say up to 15? And she has not emailed back.
Well, I don't know. Basically, I was interpreting it that the town cannot restrict the developer to less than 15. But it's not clear to me that if a developer wanted to develop it at a density of 8.
Right. I think our zone just has to, I think we just have to say
I
if
would
it's
think we
3A.
could still allow it. So I would not interpret that as saying you are forbidden from doing a development at lower density than that.
Well, that's what I got to find out, because if it is the overlay and if the underlay is not having anything to do with density, we have to get them to say it's one or the other.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it is not really clear from the text of the law, which it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
the point of 3A was to allow multifamily. So are they, I guess that's the question is, you know, if it's less than 15, but it's more than what we currently, which it's more than the 4 that we allow under EA, then what is it? I mean, it has to be developed under something. So you can't say that it's developed under some zoning. So it's either, if it's less than 15, then it would be, and it's more than 4, then it's not EA. So it would be developed under 3A using the 3A zoning. So how can you not say that?
I don't know. When I see anything that says shall and it says a minimum of 15, I kind of feel that we can't say up to 15. But Will, what do you think? Oh, sorry.
No, I think that they're sort of like Rob says. I think that they're sort of interpreting it the way that they want to, and it could be something that's a subject of litigation down the road. So for now, we're probably kind of stuck with their interpretation of this.
Well, they hold the power to say yes or no on our bylaws right now. So
right, and then our recourse would
So Rob, to be continued. We'll push more on that.
sue and say that.
Although when you say yes or no, that was an interesting piece of the discussion, because it basically became clear at the end of the presentation that, you know, if if the town passes a 3A bylaw at town meeting, it is presumptively considered valid at the time of passage. However, they said a developer would probably be wise to not do a development under that until the Attorney General has ruled that it is basically legal. So the AG rules as to whether it's valid and legal under state law, and therefore remains in effect or is effectively nullified. They rule, the housing office rules whether or not it meets the state's 3A requirements. So your bylaw can be valid and legal and enforceable, but it doesn't meet the state's requirements. So they will, penalize you by taking grants away and push you to modify it. Or the opposite could be true. They could say it meets the state's requirements, but the AG says it's not legal. So
and then take money away too.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's very frustrating, which is why I really want a consultant on here to help us work through some of this. And then if I don't hear back from the Attorney General's office by next week, I will ping again. I have a feeling they don't want to put some things in writing.
All right, on that note, thank you, everyone. Good discussion. Lots to think about. Inching our way forward. Again, trying to simplify some things, and it's been good to dig into the weeds on other issues. So motion to adjourn the meeting at 8:48 p.m.
So moved.
Moved.
Okay.
Okay, moved by Frank, second by Rob. All in favor of adjourning the meeting? Will Dunham,
Aye.
Frank Hoke,
Right.
Rob Wolf,
Aye.
Hattie Mae Weiss says aye. Thank you, everyone, for your time tonight. Appreciate it.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Look forward to your email.
Yes, thanks.